I'm Louis Armstrong. I'm author of the book Judgment of America and Black Nostradamus Prophecy of America Future. These are two incredible books. This is the one that I'm going to be lecturing from today. And it would be nice if you get these books because they're very important if you really want to know the truth about how God's active presence is in man's life, especially in this nation of America. This is another picture that's showing a book signing that I did. I have did several book signings. I've done about this particular book. And you can find this book on Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble, more likely you have to order it. Amazon, you go on the internet and get it right away, etc., etc. You get it right away. Now, I want to deal with something that's very important. This is one of the most important prophecies of today. And we need to understand this. This is something, if I don't teach anything else, this I have to teach. This is a must. America needs to understand this prophecy. This prophecy have not once been taught to the American people because they was not peoples in the time, or individual in time past was not given this revelation. This is a revelation that have been divinely given to me to share with the American peoples and others. And I want to show you this. And it's in the Bible. I have to use the Bible. Although I'm an author and public speaker, these truth-isms, there's truth-isms all over the Bible. There's things that come from different cultures that have integrated itself into this Bible. So when someone tell you the Bible is a book, literal writings, just leave that alone. It's time for truth. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius starts the Bronze Age. And later on in our lecture, we're going to talk about that because it's significance to understand how astrology and astronomy fits inside the Bible. And the church do not teach it. They stay away from it. I'll say that. The Christian church does not teach it. The Jewish organization do, the Islamic, and also the Chinese, their culture, Asian culture, they teach it. But the Christian, for some reason, although it was in time past, they have the tendency not to teach it. And although you can see it in all the architectural. Now, what I need to deal with is what Jesus said, the character of Jesus said about this, because this is what you call a truth-ism. And this is very important to know, that this is a truth-ism. And this truth-ism is real. It's the truth of the past, of the present, and of the future. This truth-ism is not going to change. Now, a lot of times we be introduced to relative truth. And relative truth sound good. But relative truth is something that's true at the moment. It don't have longevity. It's just something at the moment. You could take a deception and make it a relative truth. But it's not this. It's not following truth-ism. It's relative. And this is what we have to understand. Now, I'm teaching through the teaching of Hebrewic typology. It's very important to know that Hebrewic typology is a genre that was taught over 18 years ago, a way of teaching in 18 years ago and on back. But in the last 1,000+ years, the church decided to literally try to explain the Bible, thus having control over the people. And I don't want to get into that part so deep right now, but I want to get into this prophecy. It's called The Sign of Assyria in America, and that's how it's titled in the book. But what it is, it's showing you in Luke 11:30. I want to read that from the scripture as well. In Luke 11:30, it say, and this is a truth-ism under the character of Jesus. It say, for as Jonah was a sign unto the Ninevites, so shall also the Son of Man be to this generation. Now we must understand the generation wasn't used, and when you're dealing with Hebrew typology, you're dealing with any prophecy. any prophecy. This book was not written in a time like, although we got this right now and you could go to the store and pick up a book, a Bible, and just read it. But at the time, it was not written for a common person to read it, because it was for the initiates, the ones that understood what goes behind that, not just what they're reading, but what goes behind that. So the initiates and the adults knew the fullness of these things, knew more of the fullness of it. But when you literally read it, you don't see the fullness of it. All you see is some writing like you do in your educational system, and it sounds like, oh, it's a generation. You don't realize that it's not talking about a generation per se, but it's talking about genealogy. And in that genealogy, it will be a generation at the time of the coming of the Son of Man. Now, most people want to see the Son of Man as of the time they recorded Jesus was here, during the time of before Titus and Vespasian, okay, during the time of the other Caesars before them. But this Son of Man, and we got to understand the title, the meaning of Son of Man. Son of Man is a prophet. And the Son of Man is not any prophet. He's a prophet that's written in the scripture. So you have to find out, when you see this information, you got to find out, who is this Son of Man that they're talking about that's going to come at our time? And we're going to see this. Now, I'm going to get into this. The sign of Assyria in America showed that, for as Jonah was a sign unto the Ninevites, so shall also the Son of Man be to this generation. Now, we know the Son of Man is someone that is to come in the future. So if Jesus said this around 2000, there's going to be someone come after that time, at 2,000 years ago. That means someone going to come after that time. And if it's a sign, then as Jonah came to Assyria, the nation of Assyria, which was the city of Nineveh. Now, although the scriptures say he come to Nineveh, you got to do your research and see, well, Nineveh, what nation was Nineveh in? Nineveh is a city, but what is the nation? The nation is Assyria. So in order to understand this sign, you got to open your mind, you got to open your third eye, your intuitive mind, and you need to see this. Now, Assyria is like America. Now, why do I say that? I'm not going to go the long way to this. I'm going to go the short way. Assyria and America, okay? The Son of Man has to come to a nation like Assyria. And Assyria and America is alike. Now, why would I say that? Let's look at it very carefully. Assyria, I'm going to go down here, then I'm going to come back into this. Assyria was the most powerful nation in the world. Now, we know the Son of Man is supposed to come in the future. America is the most powerful nation in the world. Will we agree? Most people will agree. Assyria was a warring nation, more aggressive than its neighbors. America is a warring nation, more aggressive than its neighbor. We're more aggressive than Mexico. We're more aggressive than China. We're more aggressive than anybody in the world. We spend more money on military hardware than all the nations in the world combined. I mean, that shows you a nation of aggression. We're a military nation. Now, Assyria have a shape like America. And they say America have a shape like Assyria. Now, most people will say, wait a minute, I never heard of that before. I never seen that before. Because what they'll do, they'll look at certain things. And when you look at it and not using, you have to look at the boundaries of Assyria. And I'd like you to see this because it's very important to see this. In it, when you look at it, you're going to see a similarity. It's a sign, so it don't supposed to be exact. It's a similarity. If you see Florida down here, you see Assyria have a part that radiate out like Florida. There go Texas over here. There go Texas. You see this part similar to Texas. Now you got Alaska over here. You see this part similar to Alaska. Then you got the New England area over here. You see this part over here shaped similar to that. Dealing with this over here. Now, you see a similarity. And this is why it's a sign. A similarity. Now, also, let's see the area of Nineveh. You see Nineveh here. You see Florida there. You got Florida have the Gulf of Mexico on this side, and then landed on here. This body is a body of water over here called the Euphrates River, and a body of water over here called the Tigris. Both of them shaped, got a similar upside down boot. You got in this area here, you got the Lake Okeechobee. In this area here, you got a lake as well. Now, Nineveh was the oldest city area of Assyria. Jacksonville, St. Augustine is the oldest city area of America. Now, look where they sitting at, right there. Nineveh is right up there. Now, it's very important because this is a sign. This is a sign to tell America what is going to happen in the last days. It's a very important sign. Now, why was it so important to compare Jonah time with America time? Because the Son of Man is to come to America. Simple as that. No one told you the Son of Man will come to America. The Son of Man is going to be like a regular person. Everybody looking at the Son of Man and saying the Son of Man is Jesus. Jesus never said the Son of Man was Jesus. He said when the Son of Man comes, he's going to come in his fathers and the holy angels. He's showing you that in the fathers mean the knowledge and understanding in which the fathers have for you to understand. We're in the dark age, and that Bronze Age knowledge got to come back because we're going into the Bronze Age. So there has to be a paradigm shift. So what do you mean by a paradigm shift? Give you understanding. At the time that's recorded of Jesus, there was a paradigm shift. Now, what was a paradigm shift? A paradigm shift is a shift that's going to happen in a sense of political and spiritual. Now, Christianity came on the scene. There was other religions. There was other Metro. If you study the character of Metro was similar to Jesus in the characteristics of it. But that paradigm shift brought Christianity in there because what? The Roman Caesar, Titus, and his father, Vespasian, wanted that because it had a lot to do with the building of Christianity. Now, most people in the church, all they do is go into the church and they learn the things that they tell them to know. Just have faith. Just believe. Believe and have faith in what? And this is the whole problem. I'm not against Christianity. I believe that we're going to have a paradigm shift that's going to bring us into a new Christianity that will not have the deception that was put in there, planted in there at the time of Rome. And this is very important. That's why they always tell you the fullness of the gospel. What is the fullness of the gospel? The fullness of the gospel is the truth of the gospel. That's what it is. Knowing the truth of what the gospel is all about. And when we begin to understand the truth, we can move forward. Now, when we begin to see this was not at Jesus' time, 2,000 years ago. It was not at Jesus' time. This is what he's talking about is not a generation during the time of Jesus. The only thing about that generation will pass on from that time on into our time. The peoples of Rome will be at that time, and they will be establishing another kingdom at this time. And that's the part where the generation fit at. It's a genealogy of that generation that will hold power again. Now, do the peoples of Rome hold power in the United States of America, that same group of people, European? Of course they do. You got if you really studied it very closely, you got the 10 Germanic tribes that was all a part, conquered Rome, and they mingled together and they became the Romans in the different tribes, etc. And you got the French, you got the Spanish, you got the English, and etc., etc. And I don't like to say the word etc. too much, that's a habit. But we got all these different individuals living in America as we speak. Now, Jonah was in the nation of Assyria and city of Nineveh. Now, when we look at it, history repeats itself. This is going to show you how history is going to repeat itself. And it's very important to see this. Now, most people, they talk about history repeating itself, but they don't show you evidence of history repeating itself. This is going to show you evidence of history repeating itself. That's why we're using Hebrewic typology. And what is Hebrewic typology? Buick typology is simply this. It's a genre that had been used long years ago, and the church quit using it because it revealed too much. And you got to have a prophet really to deliver that. What Hebrew typology do, it take the life of one prophet, like the life of Jonah, or the life of Joseph, and the life of Moses, and it will take that idea that's written in there. It won't be every word by word, and it will pass on. Now, God, this is divine thing that God already done put into place. That life will mirror a future prophet. And when you begin to see that, you begin to see that, wow. And it's true because I'm able to teach it and I can show you each time. Now, why is that so important? Because that prophet, seeing through his intuitive mind, he could read the same scripture you reading, and he's going to get a whole different perspective out of it. He's going to see the truth-isms in it. And also he's going to see himself, how God done put himself inside that time so he could reveal that to the masses of the people. They say, without a prophet, man will perish. That is necessary, although some religions think that there ain't no more coming. There's always going to be prophets. There's always going to be prophets. But most people don't believe that because it's not dealing with truthism. It's dealing with relative truth. And relative truth, you could say anything you want to say, and if you push it, you could push it with an army, with a military force, with a political force. You could eventually, saying it over and over in people's mind, you can make it come true. But it's not really truthism. It's a relative truth. And this is what we got to understand. We got to come out of the relative truth and begin to be a part of an absolute truth. Now, when you look at this, you see that both of these have similarities. Okay, now let's deal with Nineveh in Jacksonville, St. Augustine, because this is a sign, because we're going to know about these events. Now, I'm going to deal with this in the middle. I'm starting from the middle. Outside of Nineveh is a city called Calla. About 20 miles outside of Nineveh is a city called Calla. Outside of Jacksonville is a city called Callahan. And I'm going to put Jacksonville / St. Augustine. Now, Nineveh was the oldest city area of Assyria. Jacksonville, St. Augustine is the oldest city area of America. Now, why do I say that? Everybody who know about Florida know that St. Augustine and peoples all over the country who been